The Magellan Expedition. The Magellan Expedition. Focus question. Who was Ferdinand Magellan and how did his expedition change the world? European exploration and rivalries. Long ago, explorers of the world made long journeys with limited understanding of what lay ahead and no modern technology to help navigate along the way. Earth's vast oceans were dangerous, mysterious, and unpredictable. Despite the danger ahead, explorers set sail with a variety of goals. One goal for European explorers in the 16th century was to find a sea route for trade between Europe and Asia. At the time, spices and other luxury goods they traded traveled by land. The land journey was long and costly because the goods changed hands many times along the route. That meant Europeans paid high prices for them. European merchants wanted to find a sea route to Asia. Such a find would mean they could stop paying people along the route and keep more money for themselves. In the quest to assert control over the oceans and establish new trade routes to Asia, Spain and Portugal became great rivals. Cherry Stopper Columbus's expedition across the Atlantic in 1492 had begun a period of aggressive Spanish expedition in the west. It also increased the rivalry between Spain and Portugal. The two nations competed to find new trade routes and to take over new lands in the Americas, Africa, and Asia. By 1514, the Portuguese ruled the waters from Africa to India and had established key ports near the Spice Islands by occupying lands that belonged to African and Asian people. They prevented Spain from doing the same. The spice trade. Spices were big business in 16th century Europe. Spice traders could take a fortune importing fragrant herbs and powders. Most species had to be brought from Asia, especially from an area then known as the Spice Islands, the Maluku Islands in Indonesia. This made them expensive and hard to get. Species such as cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, and black pepper were so valuable that people used them as currency. Ferdinand Magellan. One of the most prominent navigators of this era of European exploration was Ferdinand Magellan. He was a complex figure, both brave and brutal. He was Portuguese but ended up sailing from Portugal rival Spain. He is often remembered as the first person to circumnavigate the world, but he died before ever making it back to Spain. Though his story may seem confusing, one thing is certain: Magellan's journey had a great impact on the world. Ferdinand Magellan was born in 1480 to Portuguese nobles. But as a boy, he served as a page in the royal court, where he heard fascinating stories about distant lands. When he was old enough, Magellan joined the Portuguese navy. From 1506 to 1512, Magellan fought in many important and successful sea battles to seize profitable spice and trade routes to India and the Spice Islands, or what are today known as Malaysia and Indonesia. Through he earned a reputation as a skilled sailor and fighter. Magellan was also known to be rowdy and disobedient. He was dismissed from his post by his captain and sent back to Portugal in disgrace for disobeying fleet orders. In 1512, he journeyed to North Africa to take over the port city of Azamar. Magellan fought intensely and his leg was injured in a battle. Yet, when Magellan returned to Portugal, King Manuel I was not happy with him. Magellan was accused of making secret trade deals with the Moors and dismissed from the Portuguese navy once and for all. Bitter and angry, in 1517 Magellan left Portugal to meet King Charles I of Spain. Though he was betraying his own country, Magellan offered to keep King Charles establish Spanish trade routes to the treasures of the Far East. King Charles knew of Magellan's reputation as a skilled navigator and fighter. He was also eager to bring more land, wealth, and resources to Spain. Because Portugal held the trade routes to the east, Magellan proposed sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean. He believed there was a water route through South America which would lead to the Far East. Although other explorers had tried and failed to find such a route, Magellan was sure he could succeed. He persuaded King Charles and set sail from Spain to September 20, 1519. The Magellan Expedition. The Magellan Expedition included 5 old ships, the flagship, Trinidad, and escort vessels San Antonio, Concepcion, Victoria, and Santiago. Because of Magellan's less than honorable reputation, he was difficult to recruit sailors for the voyage. Spanish sailors did not want to sail under the Portuguese captain, and Portuguese sailors saw Magellan as a traitor. Many of those who joined his crew mistrusted Magellan, which would cause problems for the expedition later. By the end of November, the expedition had made it across the Atlantic. The ships traveled south along the coast of South America, collecting data about the geography, climate, plants, animals, and native people they encountered. Whenever they came to the mouth of a river, Magellan sent out ships to see where it led. He was searching for a water route that connected the Atlantic Ocean to the South Sea, where the Spice Islands were located. The search continued with no success. Magellan's crew grew frustrated and unruly. They had been at sea for months, and many were weary and sick. In April 1520, some of the expedition's Spanish captains staged a mutiny against their Portuguese commander. Magellan beat back an rebellion and dealt with the traitors harshly. Some were executed and others were left ashore or forced into hard labor. Though the expedition continued, it was not long before one of the ships were wrecked and another abandoned the voyage and turned back to Spain. Later that year, with only 2 ships remaining, Magellan was ready to give up. Just as he was preparing to set sail for Spain, news came that one of their vessels had located a strait through what they had thought was a bay. Sailing the strait and the sea. Magellan led the last 2 ships, the Concepcion and the Victoria, through the strait. After 38 days of rough sailing, they reached the South Sea in November 1520. Magellan named in the Pacific Ocean for its peaceful waters. But Magellan badly underestimated the distance between South America and Asia. He expected to find islands along the way where the ships could stock up on supplies and fresh food. Instead, the crew suffered from rotten food, disease, and poor sanitation for 3 months. 19 sailors died before the expedition reached the island of Guam in March 1521. More serious than seasickness. Early sailors spent months away from land and sources of fresh food. As a result, many got scurvy, a condition caused by a lack of vitamin C. Scurvy caused joint pain and blood spots beneath the skin. Victims became too weak to walk or even eat, and if untreated, they died. Magellan lost about half his crew to scurvy. Beriberi is another illness that plagued early sailors. It is a disease of the nervous system caused by a lack of the mineral thiamine. The name comes from an Asian language and means I cannot. Victims. Nervous became so damaged that they were unable to do the simplest of tasks before eventually dying. Claiming in Philippines. A month after landing in Guam, Magellan's crew reached a collection of islands which had been unknown to Europeans, though there were native people living on these islands. Magellan immediately claimed them for Spain and renamed them the Philippines for King Philip II of Spain. Magellan demanded the native people convert to Catholicism and accept Spanish rule. While some native people accepted Magellan's terms, many did not. Magellan attacked those who refused. With false confidence, he led a few dozen men to the island of Mactan, where more than 1,500 native Mactan fighters were waiting for them. The Mactans easily defeated the European sailor. The Magellan was killed in the battle on April 27, 1521. The first person to circumnavigate. When Magellan's expedition reached the Philippines in April 1521, he was surprised to find that one of his crew members could speak the local language. Enrique was an enslaved man Magellan had brought with him, because Enrique could understand and speak the language of the native people of the Philippines. It is likely that he lived on the islands before being enslaved. If this theory is true, then Enrique was the first person to successfully circumnavigate the globe, not Magellan or any of his European crew. The end of the expedition and after. After Magellan's death, his few remaining crew members continued their journey. They returned to Spain in September 1522 with only one ship, a few dozen men, and no Magellan. Though the voyage was grueling and the crew suffered greatly, the Magellan expedition was a major achievement in navigation. The journey showed that it was possible to reach Asia by sailing west rather than east, and confirmed the true size and scope of Earth. The Magellan expedition encountered a strait and an ocean previously unknown to Europeans and proved that the world could be circumnavigated. It also smoothed the path for European colonization of the new job. Magellan's expedition also changed the lives of the native people to Mactan and the surrounding islands. Though no gold or species were ever found there, after the Magellan expedition and Spaniards returned to take control of the Philippines. They converted many of the native people to Catholicism and established Spanish laws and government to rule over them. Spanish languages and costumes became widespread among native people, and a unique Filipino culture was born. But native Filipino people were not satisfied with Spanish rule. They fought for and finally gained their independence in 1896, after more than 300 years. The Magellan expedition introduced major changes to the world. Some changes led to progress, and others caused harm. Magellan himself remains an